Welcome all to the first of a series of podcasts that will be hosted by Acceleration Lab in North Macedonia. We decided to create podcasts not because it's cool, but because it's easier for us. And instead of typing blog posts that nobody reads, we are moving in the digital area where we'll videotape ourselves, where we'll invite speakers, where we invite innovators, everybody who is interested. And on a monthly basis, we will share that learnings, we'll share those findings with you. In the first episode of the Acceleration Lab podcasts, we are going to focus about a new trend, the industrial revolution, as it's called, the emergence of the fabrication labs or fab labs, makers places, biohacking labs, which can be a gateway to the sustainable development that we are all looking in our societies. In the first episode, I have a special guest coming from the State Fund for Innovation and Technology Development, Ms. Katerina Krečeva, who spearheaded the process of opening the first fab labs in the country. We'll try to make a connection with fab labs, sustainable development, quadruple helix model, and a new modality which I will not name, but I will say it here. Quadruple helix model that takes care of the environment. Somebody calls it the donut economics. Somebody calls it something else. Thank you, and I hope that you'll enjoy this podcast. As time goes, I'm sure that we'll be funnier, we'll be more innovative, but this is just breaking the ice. Enjoy the podcast.
Experiment, innovate, accelerate. You're listening to UNDP, North Macedonia Accelerator Lab podcast.
Dear all, welcome to the first of a series of podcasts created and curated by the Acceleration Labs of North Macedonia. My name is Igor Izotov. I'm the head of exploration. Basically, the title means I need to explore new patterns, new trends, weak signals that are happening around the globe, and how those weak signals can be implemented in our small but beautiful country. In the previous period, we have been exploring the area of makers' places, fabricating laboratories. What we found out that in the past 20 years, this case created a movement where hardware industry has moved into the digital world. Similar to what Chris Anderson, the chief editor of Wired magazine, called them, the movement represents physical goods created with the web's digital innovation model. However, these fab labs can also be a tool for sustainable development. To answer this question, I have Ms. Katerina Krečeva from the State Fund for Innovation and Technology Development, the institution that is responsible for investing in research and development and innovation in both private and public sectors. Katerina, welcome. Thank you for being the first guest on our series of podcasts on different areas. Today we will be discussing about your specialty, creating policies that can change a society. You did your master's degree at Cambridge University, where you specialized in policy writing, and you are the foremost expert on fab labs in the country. You created the policy for the quadruple quadruple helix model. And you also spearheaded the process of establishing the first fab labs in the country. Before we begin, can you tell me what's the difference from theory in Cambridge University transferred in a developing country like Macedonia, creating policies in Macedonia?
Hi, Igor, and hi to all listening to this podcast. First of all, it is a pleasure being your guest, and especially when discussing such an interesting topic. To transfer the knowledge acquired from a top university, especially in policymaking, is a very challenging experience because at these universities you study theory at a very proficient level. My master was Master of Philosophy, which knowledge means that we studied the concepts behind development theories and how these transfer into the transformation of the society, of the socioeconomic context of a certain country towards improving the well-being of citizens. So to have this knowledge, to acquire this knowledge means that one needs to understand these transformative processes, but also how paradigms in development theory shift and how methodologies in design, in analyzing and designing policy are changing. And with this knowledge to approach the specific country context, such as a small developing economy, such as the Macedonian one.
So let's see the country context. Let's see the baseline, where Macedonia is functioning. Where is the infrastructure for R&D, especially in manufacturing, in hardware industries, in agri-tech, so on and so forth?
Now, this is a very interesting question because all reports and all analysis show that research infrastructure, but also research development and innovation in general, have been underfunded in the past 10 years. Now we have very few analysis of the state of act, of the current state of act, of the investments in RDI, but also even less in RDI infrastructure. What we have as a hard number is that currently the country, unfortunately, in investing around 0.4% in RDI, out of which 0.1 comes from the business sector. These numbers are fluctuating. For example, in 2004, the investment was higher, around 0.5. It decreased slowly after the years after, and now it's slowly increasing again. But this is still insufficient in order to boost the infrastructure and to boost RDI activities that are very important for developing a knowledge-based economy. In comparison, the EU average expenditure in RDI is 2%, something above 2%, and they are aiming to increase it up to 3%. Now, 2% out of our GDP is 200 million euros. The annual budget of the fund is around 12 million euros. Now imagine how it will look if we invest 200 million euros, the 2% of the GDP, into research, development, and innovation. Now, to be honest, in order to have this investment, you also need to have the demand side and infrastructure, but also the beneficiaries that will be able to absorb this investment, which means that we need to build the capacities first in order to build up the investment level. And RDI infrastructure is very important for this, because if you look at the numbers, we have very low performance rate in research in STEM among school-aged children on PISA results. We have very insufficient, limited, participation in Horizon, in the European research development innovation programs. So there is access to finance, but we need to work on the capacities in order to build the pipeline and build the investment readiness of the companies, but also the research institutions, in order to absorb higher RDI investment on the side of the state, public RDI investment, but also attract private capital, which is even more important, because if they're not attractive, if they do not offer value for the private capital, then there is no transfer of know-how and technology from research and development to the private sector, which means no commercialization of innovation. And this is crucial. And this is where RDI infrastructure and facilities such as research laboratories, fab labs, maker spaces, and similar infrastructure plays a crucial role.
I think you touched upon the quadruple helix model. We have the industry, we have the academia, we have the innovators, and we have the civil society or the citizens, let's call them like that. Where is the quadruple helix model in Macedonia? From a perspective of a citizen, let's say, not like an employee of the state agency. How we are combining, maybe in these fab labs, which you spearheaded the opening of the first 3 fab labs in the country. Can we see a clash of the quadruple helix model or the development of a modern quadruple helix model in these fab labs?
What we are trying to do through with the fab labs and with the model that we are putting forward is actually encourage or facilitate the formation, the establishment of a quadruple helix. Why? Because it's very important of who the driver of transformation of the economy is. Now, the development paradigms have shifted from economic development to human-centered development, which I think is also the philosophy behind the UN approach. And here, quadruple helix system compared to the triple helix system plays a bigger role. Why? Because, as you mentioned, the triple helix system is the cooperation between the industry, academia, and the public sector, and quadruple helix system is incorporating the civil society in this picture to form a sort of a collaboration or co-design practices in order to find solution for common social challenges, for common social issues, because what the innovation should solve and what the businesses, the academia, and the RDI activities should offer is actually solutions to the problems of the citizens. And who is better to define the problem and to contribute to these solutions are the citizens, because they are facing the problems. They are the ones who should achieve the consensus, what is the priority, and how to approach the problem in order to find the solution that brings them better well-being.
But on the horizon, there is another addition to the quadruple helix model. Environment. What do we do about the environment? In the world, there is the donut economics model. There are various models that work in this area, let's say. Can you tell us more how we as a country can expand towards the fifth dimension environment, quadruple helix model, incorporating environment as well? Is there a name actually for such a model?
I'm not sure whether I can give you that answer, because I think that we should commonly find out the answer. But yes, after the next step, the model after the quadruple helix is the quadruple helix system that brings in the environment into the picture. Now, the climate change is a hot topic nowadays, and now we are speaking about greening the economy, the transformative value, the transformative force that the economy can have on coping with the climate change. And this is sort of the philosophy behind sustainable development, because if we destroy the planet, we destroy ourselves, right? So we should sort of cooperate with the planet and with the environment to build us a better well-being. Now, how to do? I don't have the answer how to do this, but I hope that this sort of quadruple helix systems will go towards the quadruple helix system, and we will jointly find a way to find solutions in order to make it a quadruple helix system.
So if I can refer back to what you said in short sentences, if the fab labs, the makers places, the tech hardware stores, spaces, call them whatever you want, fabrication laboratories as well, if we add the sustainable development part, the climate change action, the life sciences, Are we getting to this new helix model?
If we do it the right way. What we need to do is to provide mechanisms to encourage this cooperation, this co-design process. Because if we only give money to one entity, or if we want, in the past years, we have been speaking mostly about projects instead of policies. I prefer to shift the conversations from funding projects to using the projects as sort of enablers for reform processes, which means that the public money should go not to funding projects for a certain, result which is tangible, but to also orient public investment towards transformative purposes. With investing in fab labs or these sort of maker spaces, we are sort of encouraging and facilitating collaboration between the different actors within the society, and we are giving a value proposition for each side. For example, in the Fab Lab model that we have been putting forward, we are saying that the location of the Fab Labs should be within the higher educational institutions. However, the implementer of the projects can be either a company, either founded by the faculty, either the faculty itself, the higher educational institution itself, or a civil society organization or an NGO. Also, we are asking for information about collaboration, about partnerships. We are asking about additional funding that can be attracted from different sources, right? We are also speaking about that the Fab Labs should be open access for students and youth. However, their services can be commercially used by the industry as well. So we are sort of creating a hotspot for cooperation. We are creating a location where all these parties, all the stakeholders can come together and cooperate, and we're investing in hardware and software, so to say, and human resources in order to make this happen.
Kata, but I like everything you said till now, but where's the ethical moment? You can create monsters in those laboratories. How is the regulation? How is this open space open to everybody that wants to create something? Where is the legal moment of the whole initiative?
Yes, you can create many strange things, many crazy things, and I'm all for inspiring, especially young people, to go for crazy. But we are all witnesses that with the rapid development of technology, there can be an aftermath as well. So these spaces, this infrastructure, I think it's also important not just for facilitating access to up-to-date technology, but also facilitating access with supervision, which means that young people that will be working in these fab labs will have mentors that will guide them.
Coming from the academia in our case.
Coming from many different places, yes. We want mentors from everywhere. We want to involve the society. Anyone who is capable, knowledgeable in a specific topic that is related to the design process, the specific technology, even with some issues such as entrepreneurship, market analysis, PR, can find their room there. But yes, especially regarding technology, and speaking of specific technologies, we have to have in consideration the ethical line here, because we have when we are speaking about makerspaces or biohacking or artificial intelligence, we have people doing all kinds of crazy things that can affect society, not just in positive but also in negative manner. So I think that educating through this sort of facilities and giving young people opportunities to experiment under guided supervision is also guiding the discovery process towards ethical innovation and towards a positive impact of this innovation.
And how do we connect everything? You mentioned sustainable development a couple of times throughout your answers. How do we connect sustainable development with the quadruple helix model? With opening fab labs, with opening biohacking labs, labs for artificial intelligence, so on and so forth.
What is sustainable development?
We are growing at such a pace that you will not harm the environment more than you are harming it on a yearly basis, like equally on a yearly basis. So it can recreate itself. Let's call it like that.
So this is the point of investing public funding smartly for transformative action, which means why I say that we need to invest in policies and not in projects. When we build in mechanisms of ethics, of impact within our funding schemes, then we are going towards this kind of development and not pouring money into economical development that can be harmful, right? So ethical consideration, but also impact on various aspects of the society, including environment, are built in within the funding, within the mechanism of providing finance to these fab labs. So their work is monitored by us. And they're monitoring the work of the young people, of the innovators, of the researchers doing the research within these fab labs. So this is, as I say, kind of we are navigating the innovation, the research, development, and innovation process towards sustainable solutions.
As a final question, I'm interested in, we're all the time speaking about innovation, investment in laboratories. The faculties, the universities here, they already have laboratories on their own. How old are those laboratories? What are we talking about? Again, I'm getting back to the baseline scenario where you mentioned that we are lacking as a country in investments in R&D and innovation. And if I can make the correlation, something's missing. There's already laboratories. We already have faculties. We already have universities who are unfortunately dropping in global rankings. Year by year, we see if we had a university 10 years or 15 years ago that was in top 1,000 universities, now it's in top 5,000 universities. Is there a connection here between why are we actually investing? Are these laboratories old? What's happening there?
Well, unfortunately, as I previously mentioned, we have been underfunding research, development, and innovation for years, especially the research and development parts. So especially, we have been underfunding activities that are in lower TRL levels, which means ideation to proof of concept. There are data showing that the average age of the equipment is 9 years. And there was this big project about equipment labs 10 years ago, in 2010, I think, so more than 10 years ago. So there is an estimated 10 million investment in the labs. I do not know which is the state of labs at the moment, of this investment at the moment. However, in the fund, we have conducted this human-centered research on students and young people for purposes of designing support measures for young people to facilitate the the STEM activities among young people, so science, technology, mathematics, engineering, to enhance creative thinking, to enhance innovation activity, and so on. We have held several focus groups, both with educators, with students, and parents, which prove that although they know that there are facilities such as this, they are not provided with substantial access, with meaningful access to this equipment, which means that our children, our students are deprived of access to a proper lab facilities. Now, if we look at the current situation, that the fastest growing sector within our industry is ICT. Now, if we see how many parents invest in private schooling of their children in ICT, we can see the result. I think we can we can assume the correlation, because what I'm saying now, it's not based on hard data, but we can assume the correlation. If we see the state of act in the region, in the Western Balkan countries, the best facilities for RDI and fab labs and prototyping studios are in Serbia. The highest level of participation in Horizon 2020 is from Serbia. The highest ranking performance in RDI is Serbia, right? So we can also assume the correlation, although this is not based on evidence on hard data, but we can establish some sort of correlation, right? Now, when we are speaking about investing in innovation infrastructure, we are also speaking about making opportunities for young people and students to get practical experience, hands-on experience on up-to-date technology, which is very important, because if the prior trends in the educational processes were a demonstration of certain experiments in front of students, right now experimentation is very important. So providing opportunities for young people to experiment themselves, of course under supervision, on up-to-date technology is very important for upscaling of their skills, not only in the technology, but also in the discovery process. And here is how we nurture innovators.
So if I get you right, if I'm a startup that, for example, wants to transform waste, bio-waste, I don't have where to go, I don't have supervision, how to do a MVP, a minimum viable product that I can sell to investors or on the open market?
I'm not very familiar in the industry, so I cannot tell you for sure. But if you Google a facility where you can do this, I can assume that there will be very few labs, maybe even
That
only
will be
one or
open to
two
the
labs,
public.
not even open, because I think that only very few of our faculties have open access policy for their research infrastructures, and this
Which is also old, 9 years or more.
Yes, which is something that the state needs to work on.
Not only the state, I think, the whole society,
The whole
private
society.
sector, the donor organizations, international organizations.
True, I agree. But the state has the mechanisms, and the society, the demand side should also be the push factor. The demand factor should also play a role. Now, I assume that if you are looking for such service, and we have seen such services because with the innovation vouchers, we have piloted mechanisms to encourage industry and academia cooperation, but there is a very little visibility of services and equipment that higher educational institutions are offering for the private sector. And I think that even the companies are not sufficiently aware of the services they can use and facilities they can use that come from the university, from the higher educational and the public research organizations. And here we need to work on raising awareness, right? We need to work on strengthening the infrastructure, so making the labs even more capable, increasing the innovation capabilities basically of both the private sector and research organizations. And this is an ongoing process. What is important is to take a step in the right direction. And this is where the mechanisms built in the policies are crucial. Because if we don't design this well, we can take a step backwards instead of forwards, right? So even if we go slowly, what is important is the right direction.
This has been the first podcast in a series of many more to come. We had Ms. Katerina Krečeva from the State Fund for Innovation, one of the leading experts, I will say, on creating policies for infrastructure in R&D, research and development and innovation, both in the higher educational institutions and I will say in the public sector, and who is a front runner in piloting processes such as the fabrication laboratories, which are a showcase of the triple, or I will even say the quadruple helix model. We together as a society, as all organizations, UNDP, the State Fund for Innovation, we should also strive for incorporating the fifth element, which is environment, in order to create, to be maybe the front runners as a country, as a society of the quadruple helix model, including environment as a fifth element. I will not mention even the name of, it's scary to call it a quadruple helix model. The name itself is scary, and I don't want to see a title there. Quadruple helix model is implemented in Macedonia. So I'll say the quadruple helix model, including as a fifth element the environment, where we will see industry connecting with startups, with innovators, connecting with the academia on solving sustainable development issues or climate issues such as waste, bio-waste. We have a air pollution problem in the country. We have some startups pumping up in the area, which is nice, but they don't have the infrastructure, and we can consider them the statistical deviation, not a goal that we as a country want to accomplish. Again, Kate, thank you. I think in the previous minutes, we shared with the public what's the baseline scenario in the country and where's the future. From everything I have heard, I think the future is simple. We just need to invest more. Thank you.
Igor, thank you for having me. It has been an honor to be a guest on your first podcast. And I can just say that by working together, we are creating a community that should be the driver forward, right? So we are not speaking that I am the expert, but I think that the discussions such as this are providing information and opening the floor for exchange of information and a platform for collaboration in order to achieve a common goal.
Policy expert. I'm sorry,
Thank
Cambridge
you.
graduates.
Thank you.